Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. I'm your host, Chet Zar, and today it is Valentine's Day that I'm recording this intro. Um, February 14th, 2023. I am totally exhausted, I think, from catching this cold that I got over a week or so ago, and it's just kicking my ass. I cannot get motivated. I can't seem to get much done. Tired all day. Makes me think I had COVID or something. But I tested negative, so I don't know, but man, it's really got me down. But here I am recording another podcast. This week we have a really great guest, a guy named Troy Hughes. You may know him from his YouTube channel. He does bass covers and has a bunch of monster masks in his background. I first discovered him, I think, while trying to figure out some Rush songs on my bass. And he started out as a Rush bass channel. So he plays along with Rush songs. It's really awesome. I'm a huge fan of the bass. And I just thought it was so funny that there's a guy making videos on YouTube that was playing songs that I liked. Kind of, Rush is semi-obscure. They're not a super popular band. And he has a bunch of monster masks in the background. I just thought, what a, kind of everything I love in one obscure video. And so anyway, I just got to know him on Facebook after that. And I thought it'd be cool to have him on because he's a big horror collector and dark art collector and mask collector and an amazing bass player and a huge Rush fan. So all of you people that don't like Rush, I'm sorry to say there's going to be a lot of nerdy Rush talk. You get me talking to another Rush fan and forget it. But all of you who do like Rush, this might be a special treat for you. I know a couple people out there in the Dark Art Society are Rush fans. So yeah, that's coming up. Like I said, what's been going on with me, I just been struggling to get things going. Still got to do a bunch of studies for my patrons because I miscounted them and I realized I owed about twice as many as I thought I did. So now I got to do a bunch more studies. But that's the way it goes. I did the Skullflower 2 painting, which is a big version of my Skullflower painting. I don't know if you've seen it on social media. It's that skull with yellow hibiscus flower. I originally painted that 12 by 12, I think, because I didn't have time to paint it as big as I wanted to for this group show. And then I got an opportunity to show a piece at the Copro booth at the LA Art Fair that's happening this week. So I was able to make it 30 by 30 inches. And that came out really good. It was nice to paint it big the way I had originally envisioned it. And he sold it too, which is great. He sold it right away. Other than that, got a Giger tribute show painting I got to get working on. You'll see that in future episodes in the background, no doubt. Another larger painting. And what else? Oh, I've got a sale going on in my web store right now. I've got these Heartbroken minis. I finally got the painted Heartbroken minis done, and I got some. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see these. I got some weird custom glow colored ones too. So those are up at jetzar.bigcartel.com if you want to check them out. I'll have them up for a while. And I think that's it. Oh, I might be getting, I don't want to jinx it, but I might be getting a new dog from the shelter tomorrow. We found a dog that I think we like. So if we do, I'll introduce her on the next episode. I guess that's it. Oh no, that's not it. Okay, for let's do the skull shop. Finally, we're gonna do the skull shop drawing. This is gonna be the last skull shop drawing. I think what we're gonna do is I'll have to talk to Kyle from the skull shop, and I think we're gonna do something to where if you join the Patreon, you get a code for a discount code or something. But we had to stop doing the drawing, so this is the last one we're gonna do. So it's skullshop.com, SKULLSHOPPE.com, and they make amazing skulls. Here's one now. There's a little kid skull I have. I love this skull. My daughter-in-law broke the tooth out, but it still works. Still looks cool. Or daughter-in-law, no, my granddaughter broke the tooth out. Anyway, they make amazing skulls. They're all cast from real skulls, and they're painted really well, and they look totally real. Anyway, so I was saying, for a while it was like people who joined at the $5 and above level on the Dark Art Society Patreon, which if you want to join at any level, you can join it for as little as $1 a month. If you join the Patreon, you get your name read on the air every week. And this week we have Ruth Key, Angela Oster, and Ken Bolton. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. It's patreon.com/Dark Art Society. So we're going to do the drawing. These are people from the $5 and above level. So I'm mixing up the names here, and I'm going to pull out a name, and that person's going to get a skull from the skull shop. Okay. Chad Savage. Chad Savage. Are you listening, Chad? You win a free skull. I don't know if you can see that from Skull Shop. All right, we did it. Yay. Okay. Oops. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, if you want to join the Dark Art Society Patreon, patreon.com/Dark Art Society. If you want to join my Patreon, personal Patreon, patreon.com/Chet Zar. And that's it. Let's get on with the interview. It's a super fun one. And here we go. I hope you enjoy it. What's up, Troy?
Hello, Chet.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for considering me.
Oh, of course. I'm such a fan of your channel.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, I was like, it was, I guess I'm selfishly having you on in a way because I was, to me, it was like, I saw your channel and I was like, okay, a guy playing bass, which I'm a huge bass fan, a guy playing Rush songs, which I'm a huge Rush fan, and he's got masks behind him. It's like everything I love in one video, and it's such a weird combination of things that I was like, oh, this is like a channel that was made for me. So I find it really interesting, and I just thought, it's related to this, this dark art scene and horror and stuff like that because of your collector, your horror collection and stuff. I just think it's really interesting. It's such a weird mix of things to have on a YouTube channel.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a perfect storm. I couldn't have planned it. Yeah, if I tried.
Yeah, it seems like it was an organic thing, I guess, the way that came about.
Yeah, the whole reason I started the channel was because I had reached a point where I wasn't playing anymore. I didn't enjoy it, and I was gonna just put the bass away. No remorse or regrets or anything. It was just I'm just kind of finished with this part of my life. And I played, for many years.
Yeah,
but I said, before I do that, I want to, I said, if there's one thing I can do fairly well that I can, with some degree of confidence say, I can do all right, it's play along with some Rush songs. That's what I grew up doing. And so I said, just to create a record that I was here and played the bass, let me play along with, 5 or 6 my favorite Rush songs. And then this way, if I can find a way to get them up on YouTube, down the road, if I tell my nieces and nephews I played, I can show them some proof,
Right.
and not have them just say, sure you do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
once
So,
I start,
oh no,
yeah,
go.
once I started doing it, the kind of the love for it was reignited, and the only way I could record was with the mask in the background, the way the room is set up.
Okay.
I wound up with one of the more recognizable
So
backdrops.
it wasn't planned like, oh, this would be a
No,
cool.
no,
It's so funny.
no. Just,
That's what
and
caught my attention.
a lot of people think it's green screen.
Oh wow, yeah. It is an amazing collection. Yeah, we'll get into that. There's a lot I want to ask you
Yeah, yeah.
about, but that's so cool. I think that's so interesting that it reignited your love of bass playing. It's like who'd have thunk that
And that was 13 years ago.
right, yeah.
If it all ended tomorrow, I squeezed another 13 years out of something I love doing for a
Right.
big part of my life.
How many videos are on your channel, do you know?
I was actually, because the last time I did something like this, I didn't have any
There's so many. It's like
stats.
I went through and I was going to count them, like there's too
Well,
many.
it all started off, everything, the first, really 80 videos I did were just Rush, nothing but
Right.
Rush. Once I hit 25, I said, oh, let me shoot for 50, then 75. So just of Rush covers, I've got 163.
Wow.
Now, 30 of those are redos because I kind of found a better way to record myself, which is
Right.
extremely primitive compared to, because I play live right into the camera, so there's no editing.
Yeah.
So where, whatever happens, happens. So I did about 135 just, original, Rush songs. And then everything else is in another playlist. And there's like 450 other videos.
Wow.
Everything.
It's
One thing
impressive.
that, yeah, well, yeah. I guess it's something.
It's interesting. I mean, it's I started out as a guitar player, and I only started playing guitar. I was never like a fan of guitar players, necessarily. I was a fan of music, but I wanted to start writing music, and so my brother played guitar, so he had like a guitar around, and he maybe taught me a chord or two, and so I just learned guitar because I wanted to write music, and so I ended up starting bands and stuff like that. Now, but I was always fans of bass players. I always loved the bass. It just didn't occur to me like you could just write music on a bass. I just thought, oh, write music, guitar. It just didn't really occur to me.
Right. I'm the guitar player. I'm going to tell the bass player what to do.
Right. Exactly. But the bands I liked were bass heavy. Like the Who and Rush, of course. I was always a fan of interesting bass lines. I just find it. I don't know. I just love it. I love the feel of the instrument. I love the sound of the instrument. And the Minutemen was a big one, which are I don't know if you've ever heard Mike Watt.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
The name sounded familiar. Mike Watt, I've definitely heard. He's done a lot of things. Right?
Yeah. He plays basses. He's like came out of the punk music scene in the '80s, and he started the Minutemen, which are you have to listen to some Minutemen because it's not punk. It's from that scene, but they're playing like funk and jazz influenced, really unusual, creative music, and they're all like the bass is the lead instrument, and if more often than not, the guitar supports the bass. Really, it's interesting. It's like the guitar is more of a rhythm instrument, and the bass is kind of the lead instrument. It's a 3-piece. Really great drummer too.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, I'll tell you after. There's an album called Double Nickels on the Dime, and I'm sure it's on YouTube, and that's kind of like their white album. It's like a double album. Every song's amazing. It's really good. So anyway,
his name gets brought up a lot.
Yeah.
And
he's like bass. He's all about bass. He's like, he was a bass champion, since the '80s. He's just not a guitar player. He's a bass player, and He's like a blue collar guy. They still load in their equipment themselves at shows. They do it all themselves. They drive around in a van when they tour. It's like it's really
I love that. Yeah,
yeah, it's
organic.
super cool. So yeah, so that was a big one too. The Minutemen and Firehose was another band that came out of after the guitar player for the Minutemen died in a car accident. They started Firehose, another guitar, rhythm guitar, lead bass band, similar to the Minutemen, but less punky, I suppose, but just amazing music. And he composed almost most of the music, all on the bass. Anyway,
I know. Recently, he has his own signature bass that's been put out.
yeah,
I kind of thought that was the Reverend Watt Plow.
Watt Plower, yeah. I want to
Watt
get one
Plow.
so bad. It's like
Um,
I only have like a cheap Ibanez cheap bass because I didn't really even start playing and maybe
don't even say a cheap Ibanez.
it was like $200 or 150 bucks.
I've got a $200 Ibanez bass, and I've got like 30 basses.
Yeah, I know. I was going to ask you about that.
And it's a $200 bass. It's and I love it. It sounds as I had a $4,000 that was cheap for a Fodera, and
Mm.
I love I love the bass. I love it so much that the neck twisted on me, and I had my guy pull the neck, replane it,
Wow.
because I have the most expensive Ibanez Talman in the world. It cost me $350 just to fix the neck on it,
More than the bass cost.
pulling the bass. But money, the cost of something does not always,
Yeah.
designate how,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah,
What it is.
when you get an instrument you love, you got to keep it alive.
Yeah,
Yeah, that if you listen to this podcast, the intro song I wrote, and that's played on that cheap Ibanez bass I got.
okay.
But anyway, I didn't really pick up the bass. I dabbled here and there, but I was just a fan. And then I don't know, maybe it was longer than 5 or 6 years ago. Now that I'm thinking about it, because you know how time is when you get our age. It's like time is meaningless. I can't tell if something's 10 years or 2 years. But I just randomly was like, I'm gonna buy a bass, and I started playing it, and I had already been like a huge bass fan, like I said, since I was a kid, and just playing it was like, oh, I love it. I should have picked up a bass in the first place. It's like I love it more than guitar playing, really. I because I'm a guitar player, I play with a pick. I tend to play with a pick. I'm not as good with my fingers, but uh, I just love it. It's such a powerful instrument, and you can do so much with it. Just I'm into it. I'm into it.
To put a finer point on what I was saying, what I've discovered from collecting basses and stuff is I've had all the basses I've in the last 5 or 6 years that I ever wanted to have, that I've had before and loved, and the things I've just always wanted to have.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've discovered, is that it doesn't matter how much a bass costs or where it was made or what, as to whether it's a great instrument or not.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it does what you want it to do or need it to do,
Right.
it's a great instrument.
Yeah, you hear a lot of bands, especially like the old English bands, buying these super cheap guitars, and writing their first songs on them, or recording with these cheap guitars. And it's like whatever works.
Yeah, it's just a tool.
Yep. So, okay, so tell me a little about your background. Like, where did you grow up, and how did you get interested in music, bass playing, and horror, and all that stuff?
I was born in Nyack, New York.
Is that like upstate New York?
That's Rockland County, so that's about 30 minutes outside of the city.
Okay.
30 minutes north of Manhattan. Where I live now is about an hour north. I live a little further north.
Okay.
Well, that was it. My parents split up when I was really young.
Mm-hmm.
So I was raised by my mother.
Mm-hmm.
and she raised had an older sister,
Mm-hmm.
1 year older than me, and a younger sister, who's like 5 years younger. And back then, there was no, I don't know I don't know if you want me to get micro or macro, but anyway, we didn't grow up with a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There was no support. It was my mother, a single mother raising 3 kids.
Yeah.
So it was a rough time.
Yeah.
Um,
That was pretty much my situation until my stepdad came along, but he was a painter, so it was still hard times even after he came along.
but I, I was kind of born melancholy. I was born a little just kind of I was I don't want to say sad,
Mm.
but I was always worried about something.
Mm.
Even my earliest memories are of worrying about something. But
Interesting.
I was always loved monsters and horror. It was Creature Feature,
Yeah.
on was it Friday nights? Or no, Chiller Theater
Yeah,
was Friday
you
night.
on the East Coast, you guys had a different
I think Saturday morning was Creature Feature.
right.
And then the 4:30, the 4 o'clock movie,
Mm-hmm.
during the week. You know, I don't know what it was about it, but I don't know. I always had great empathy for a lot of the monsters.
Right. Me too. That's
If
a
they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time and
yeah, yeah. And they're the outcasts. They're like the
outcast.
outcasts. Nobody likes them. It's like you can relate to them in that way.
Even now with sports, I don't even know. I don't know who's in the Super Bowl,
Yeah,
and
same
I
here. I have no
rarely
idea.
ever watch anything, but I'm always rooting for the team that's losing.
Right.
So that even if I have
Yes.
to switch sides,
Yeah, because I'm sure your story is kind of mirroring my own in so many ways. It's like I think when you grow up in a situation where you are the underdog, you have appreciation for other underdogs when you see that. You have empathy for them, you know.
that could be it. For some reason, I looked up your bio. I looked it up when we first became acquainted on social media,
Mm.
and this guy's the real deal. He got big shit. So I just assumed forgive me for jumping to conclusions, that you grew up in some affluence because
Oh
your
no.
stepfather was an artist.
No, no. No, he was a working artist. Um no, I grew up in San Pedro, which is like a blue collar longshoreman town. That's what everyone who was in San Pedro was a longshoreman basically. That was the job you got there. And
Sounds like rough work.
yeah, yeah, it was, it's they're blue collar.
Yeah.
Very very blue collar working class. And yeah, and my stepdad really never made a lot of money. When he died, uh, they had no money. But he was painting every day, which is what he loved. It was never about the money for him. Um, so
That's
yeah, so
great.
I got to. That's kind of why I didn't start painting until I was 30 in my 30s. That's why I decided to switch careers because I watched growing up, we were just always broke because my dad was a painter, and it was, feast or famine, and mostly famine. So I just didn't even see it as a viable career option. But effects I was, super into from like age 12. And that seemed like okay. I was into it. I would have done it whether it was a good career choice or not financially, but it ended up being like, you could make decent money in effects.
Yeah.
So I just
Yeah.
went right into that. Um, so yeah, I guess the horror. I think that part of the attraction to horror is maybe comes from being a warrior. Because I'm still kind of a warrior. I'm always working on not worrying.
Just
Um,
wait. Just to clarify, a warrior, not a
yeah,
warrior.
no, no, no.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
all
not a
right.
warrior.
I want to make sure we're talking about the same. Yeah, need to. I'm a worrying
Yeah.
warrior.
Warrior. Uh, uh, so I've I wonder. I feel like horror movies maybe are a way of externalizing our worries and projecting them on. It's like on some psychological level, like making them making them feel like you have some sort of control over it.
It could be because I always it's kind of becoming a recurring theme in my life. Is it? I felt at home watching them.
Right, me too. Which
It
is
was
so
it
weird.
was right where it was right where I needed to be, right what I needed to see and experience, and I was out of my head,
Right,
out of
right.
my own head during
Yeah,
that time.
yeah, yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
And that's what that's what my music does for me,
Mm-hmm.
with what I do with music. And that's what my interest in horror does for me too. You know,
When did you start getting interested in music?
in middle school, which
Mm-hmm.
for us was sixth through eighth grade.
Mm-hmm.
I think in seventh grade, uh, they you had to take music, and the orchestra teacher. I didn't have any interest in blowing into anything. So the orchestra teacher, was any, we get up and demo each instrument, and he brought out the upright bass and he played the Andy Griffith theme and
Oh.
whistled along with it. Um, Maybe you can edit a little, yeah. But everyone wanted to play the violin, everyone raised their hand for the cello, and he goes, "Anyone all right, upright bass?" Nobody raised their hand. I looked around the room. I said, "All right, well, that's for me." I thought you had to do it. I thought it was mandatory.
Uh-huh.
I was just waiting to the end because
That's so
I didn't
funny.
want to be. I didn't want to be doing what anyone else was
You're
doing.
right.
I just wanted to be, give me so much.
Just want to be left alone with your
Just
own little
leave me
instrument.
alone. So no one else raised their hand for the upright bass. So
That's so funny.
I took that up, and then within a year, I discovered Kiss.
Oh
And
yeah. Yep. Same.
Kiss, it had nothing to do with. It was Gene Simmons
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and the horror imagery.
Yep. Spitting blood and all
Who
that.
wouldn't, love a pair of boots like that,
Yeah.
and bat wings, and I didn't even know. I said, "Well, I'm going to play what he's playing,"
Oh
and that's
wow.
what I
Oh, that's
played,
so funny. Wow. Interesting.
electric bass.
He's got some, some of that. There are some really cool bass lines in some old Kiss songs. It's not.
I've done a number of Kiss covers, and I just did 3
Uh,
like 2 weeks ago, and it's just so much fun.
yeah, yeah,
You can say there's a lot of bad things I could say about Gene Simmons,
right.
but because he's just an easy target. But I
Yeah,
won't. He did what he wanted to do, and he's
yeah. I was just, I got into Kiss when I was like 9 years old, and when you get into Kiss,
I'm trying to think how old was I in probably 10ish, I guess, in
yeah,
seventh grade. Is that how old? I don't know.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was 9. I was
Yeah, see,
probably 676, 77, something like
all
that.
right,
Maybe.
70. You,
Yeah, because
sorry, so it was
I had an
76,
older
70,
brother and an older sister, so I would hear that stuff from them.
77. I got to do the math. So
But
it would have been 77. I know it was the bicentennial in
oh
1976.
yeah, I remember the bicentennial.
I remember those flags. You thought, saw a lot of flags after 9/11.
Oh my god.
So 76 was the 200th, the bicentennial. So
Yeah.
that was sixth grade. So seventh grade would have been 77. So 64, 70. Was that right?
Yeah, I
So
think
I would have been more like 12 or 13 then.
oh, okay.
I think. No, couldn't have been. Anyway,
Yeah. I don't know.
I was probably 11 or 12.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, yeah, I was totally a Kiss fan, totally into it. Same thing. Gene Simmons he would talk about Lon Chaney in interviews. He had those boots.
He had the scorpion or something, or a tarantula in a glass.
Yeah. The spitting blood, spitting fire, the makeup. It's like he was the coolest looking one of all of them for sure. I mean, you can't I don't think anyone could deny he was the coolest looking one. But so I would like, look in Circus. Remember Circus magazine and
Yeah, yeah.
Cream, and that's like I would read these music magazines, and he just looked so scary and cool. And then I got older, and then I got into prog, and more sophisticated music, and so then I was like, oh, Kiss was so bad, blah blah, like totally just went. I just completely turned on Kiss, and then as an adult, I was able to go back and go like, man, they had some really great just rock songs, and listening to specifically to his bass playing, I was like, there's some really great bass lines, really really tasty bass lines on some Kiss songs, and I was like, man, that was pretty
I
good.
agree.
There was
I
some good
agree.
stuff.
I just did Cold Gin,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Deuce,
Oh
and
yeah.
uh, and I want you.
Excellent. Yeah, I have to watch those.
Oh yeah, I haven't uploaded them
Oh,
yet,
okay. Cool, cool.
but again, lot of fun. I didn't I once I started playing, I didn't know Kiss was one of the first bands to tune down a half step.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah,
I had
I
no
didn't
idea.
know. Well, I don't know about the first bands, but they did tune down a half step. And
Right.
I learned by ear,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to. I was like, how is this possible? You can't do it. I'm trying to. I'm and it just got frustrating. And then probably Kiss was, by the time I got to high school, I heard Black Sabbath,
Right.
and then same thing. I wouldn't say I turned on Kiss, but I definitely stepped away from them quickly.
Right.
Because Black Sabbath had everything I was looking for too, the horror imagery
Yeah, yeah.
and just
And
they just sounded evil.
yeah, yeah, totally. And I think didn't they tune down half a
They
step or a
tuned
whole
down
step or something
on,
because of
yeah, that's on some stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Some stuff is in concert pitch, other stuff no. But back when I was trying to learn Kiss stuff, I didn't know you could retune an instrument. I just
Right.
thought I thought you'd break it.
Yeah,
If you
that's
tuned
the
it up.
speaking of tuning and Mike Watt, also there's a great you have to watch documentary about the Minutemen called We Jam Econo. I'll send you a link. But uh he's talking about, or I think it's Flea is talking about Mike Watt telling him a story about when he started playing the bass because I guess his mom wanted to keep him and his friend, the guitar player, out of trouble.
Mhm.
And so he got stuck with the bass because his mom, the guitar player's mom's like, here, you play the bass. And they were so young they didn't know about tuning. They just thought
Uh-huh.
some people like the strings tight and some people like them loose.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we could have been friends.
It's so funny, so innocent. So yeah, that let's see. Yeah, I also got into Sabbath with I think it was the
Yep.
Master of Reality album.
Yes. Or we sold our souls for rock and roll was my big one. I think
Okay.
that was a compilation.
Okay.
I think. I
Yeah.
remember one of the first bands we ever put together in high school. Uh, we show up at this guy's house. His name was Jim Goodman, and me and my other friend, I got hair by first year of high school down to the middle of my back, and we show up at his house to meet him, and his mother's like, "No, he's at a religion class," and we're standing there holding a stack of Black Sabbath albums. She just looked at us and like, "Oh man,
Yeah.
I'll tell him you stopped by though." Like, sure you will.
Yeah, they were scary at the time. I remember seeing that. I'm not sure what album it is with the person on the bed with that kind of demon.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was like
Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like such a great painting and scary and creepy and yeah, that was super cool. I remember, funny little total non sequitur, but I remember listening to Sweet Leaf for the first
Mhm.
time, and there was a it was on a cassette tape, and there was some damage to the tape, and so there was a sound that was like went before the coughing came in. It sounded like a speedboat or a lawnmower or something, and then coughing. And for like, that year, until I heard it on the radio, I thought that was part of the song, like the speedboat sound. Makes no sense, but it just seemed like, cool. And we didn't even know it was about weed or anything at the time, because we were like,
Yeah.
again, 10, 11 years old probably. So funny. We just thought the cough was like funny and cool. We didn't know it was. Oh man, the good old days. So okay, so where did the when did Rush come into the picture?
So I started playing, and shortly after Black Sabbath came Rush. A friend of mine belonged to I hope a lot of your listeners are above a certain age, because otherwise they're going to
a lot of them are not going to know what the hell we're talking about.
You belong to this thing they call a record club. He sent away for Mahogany Rush.
Oh yeah,
Pat Martino and Mahogany Rush, and they sent him All the World to Stage, which was the live album by Rush.
Right. Yep. That was one
by mistake.
Yeah.
And he listened. He's like, listen to this shit. And first we're laughing, we're like, oh my God, listen to that guy's voice. But then, after a few minutes, we're like, holy shit, listen to what they're doing.
Right.
And that was it. That was probably 1980.
Mm-hmm.
The first live concert I ever went to was Rush on their Permanent Waves tour at Nassau.
Oh, really?
Down in Long Island.
Oh, how cool! You're
concert
lucky.
I've ever seen. And it's one of those things. How many things in your life are that constant? So from 1980 something till when did they stop? 2015.
Yeah, something like that.
Show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, right.
I was with them, And another thing about Rush, back then it was a weirdo club,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They were the band everyone kind of loved to hate.
Yeah.
And the last couple of years, forget about it.
I know.
People, I love Rush. I
know.
You're like, you should have been around, a decade.
That's why it was so validating.
They were underdogs.
Yeah, totally. And it was so validating to see them get that documentary made finally, because it was like, I fucking knew it. I knew it. They were a great, great band. All you people that gave me shit over the years were wrong. It's like, it really was like, it validated myself in a way. Like, see, I knew they were a great band, because you didn't get any support from anywhere other than other Rush fans that they were a good band.
They, right. Really,
the critics were not into them.
Like you backed the right horse,
right?
On that. They just stood their ground. They did exactly what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
There were no matinee idols in the band.
Right.
It was all about, they never any drama, never any.
Yeah. Yeah. No bullshit. It's like they weren't like partying dudes. No. It was. I mean, I grew up feeling like that kind of person. Like, I wasn't into partying. It's like I just thought all that stuff was kind of stupid, and I don't know. They just seemed like smart, kind of, smarter than average, and but that's what kind of got me into prog, because in high school I really started, because I was like a big AC/DC fan. Also, I still like AC/DC a lot, but after, in that era, I was like AC/DC. I got really into Devo too, which is another amazing band. Geddy Lee's a Devo fan, by the way.
I would have loved to have seen them. A few years ago.
I saw them. My brother took me. It was 1979-80, New Year's Eve.
He's a great bass player.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he is. Yeah, exactly, and super underrated as well. But once I got into Rush, it was from the Spirit of Radio. I heard a friend of mine in 7th grade played it for me, and I was like, oh my God, that's so great. And then I just got totally into them, and that sort of set me in a prog direction. Because
Same here. I went. Then it was Rush, yes, Kansas,
yep,
Jethro Tull,
yep,
and John-Luc Ponty, Al Di Meola, like kind of
jazz stuff.
And
Yeah.
that's the stuff I was playing when I was, trying to play when I was 15 years old, 16 years old. And, I'm sure my mother was delighted when she started hearing that come out from under my bedroom, uh, as opposed to Black Sabbath,
Right.
Satan.
Yeah.
I haven't heard Satan mentioned once in any of this new music.
Yeah. That's funny. So, yeah, I see. I went down a prog path, and I started. I, I couldn't. It's like I liked Yes, but I didn't like them like I liked Rush. It's like Rush always
Hey,
had like catchier songs that I could easily that just
yeah,
felt more listenable. Um, and I felt like I was really searching in Prague for bands to like as much as Rush, and it's like I was look UK, that band UK, Marillion. Remember Marillion, which was like a super
yeah,
weird,
but yeah,
obscure
I
band, and
just know them from primarily Kaylee, the big just
oh
hit.
yeah, right. But they were a prog band,
They were a prog band. Yeah.
and
I don't know much of their catalog.
yeah, it's not that good. That's why.
No, oh,
Well,
I know some
that's
people who were rabid fans.
well, okay. I shouldn't say
All over.
it's not good. It wasn't giving me what I was getting from Rush, and but no other prog band really did, and so
No, Rush had that hard rock element where they could rock and
mhm,
then also get extremely complex.
yeah,
And
but it was
Rush was everything. The bass was great. They
yep,
were all great. The lyrics were very
yeah,
great. Give you something to think about. The
amazing,
melodies were great.
yep,
The music was, it could be simple at times and very complex at other times. Yes, always was trying to, to me sound overly complicated.
right, yeah, and
Nothing against them,
yeah,
they
no,
have some
they were great. They were a great band.
great
It's just
stuff.
that like a lot of the prog bands went more like classical influenced,
Mhm.
and it sounded
Yes,
like chamber music by a
I was
rock
I was
band,
gonna
and it's
I
like
was
I
gonna
just
say
wasn't
yes.
really into that. It just didn't grab me. Like Rush had a rock bass, that was their bass was rock music,
Right.
blues based kind of, but they weren't like other prog bands in that way. Like most of the prog bands were very like all about, like you're saying, being kind of overly complex for its own sake,
Mhm.
and it seemed like Rush could do uh, it was like songwriting first, but then they would all be jamming and
Right.
playing intricate stuff, but the song sounded good still and listenable and catchy, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And they, they evolved, not evolved, they changed
Mm-hmm.
over years, and everyone has their favorite periods.
Yeah. What's your favorite period of Rush?
My favorite period is which is probably not a very popular period, but the Power Windows.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
That's my favorite album, only because just what he was playing on the
Yeah.
bass.
No, I love,
It
I,
was just sonically, it was just such a great sound. You could hear right through the mix. You could hear,
yeah. No,
everything.
I love that album. That's definitely one of my favorite albums. I love the Hold Your Fire album too, which like nobody likes. I mean,
That,
it's not
I mean,
like
that,
there's not as many. Not all the songs
right,
are great, but the songs that are good are really amazing.
right.
And there's some really good like deep cuts, like what's
Prime Mover is my favorite song of that album.
which one?
That anything can happen.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's that bass line in that is
Oh yeah,
amazing. Is so
I've done.
amazing.
I try not to repeat myself on my channel, the songs I've done, but I've done 3 different covers of that album.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's just some songs just give me such joy to play, and that's one of them.
Yeah. Big Money's amazing. Big Money
Big
is
one.
such an amazing. It's just there's so many good songs on that album.
They were firing on all cylinders in my mind. That album,
Yeah.
you know, lyrically, melodically, what they were playing. It was with the production was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and I recently found a Neil Peart video of him doing like a drum clinic. I don't know if
Mhm.
you've seen it. It's outdoors, and he's like teaching. Ouch! Oh, I just hit my
You
elbow.
okay?
Yeah, I just hit my elbow and a screw sticking out of my. Uh, He's doing like a drum clinic, and he's talking about all the triggers he was using,
Mhm.
and he's playing these triggers, and it's like he's triggering. I always thought they were like sequenced or something, and lined up to a click track, but it's like no, he's hitting these samples like in the Big Money. There's there's this guitar riff in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah,
There's a, and it's not even, it's a sample of Alex playing guitar being triggered. So he's like triggering these things in real time. It's not like hooked up to a
yeah,
sequence. And I was like, damn, back then they were doing that. It was kind of amazing. I had no idea.
yeah, yeah. They
Super
definitely
advanced
had a lot going on. Yeah,
technologically. Okay, that's enough. I gotta say one more thing about Rush. I know
yeah,
people are like, it is. Some people hate Rush, and so it's like they're gonna be like, "Oh,
yeah,
this part is terrible." But if you hate Rush, you should watch. I would say anyone that hates Rush, watch the documentary Beyond the Lighted Stage, and listen to Moving Pictures. And if you still hate Rush, okay, you're never gonna like them. But Moving Pictures, I think, is the most accessible album, and it really is. I
great album. Not my favorite. I like Permanent Waves.
Permanent Waves is great. I just feel like, from a, I don't know. I think Moving Pictures is their best album as a piece. Not necessarily my favorite album, but it's just kind of perfect from beginning to end. It's just like, I don't know. The production is so
Yeah, I
amazing
wouldn't
on
argue.
that album.
But my last thing on Rush is I just feel I don't use the word blessed a lot, but I'm grateful to have been able to see him at least once every tour
Oh, you
from
did
Permanent
really?
Waves, to the end.
Oh my God, that's so
You
cool.
know, yeah, and I've seen him play some clunkers, yeah, sound wise, never performance wise. I've
Right.
heard some crappy sounding shows, but uh,
That's amazing to see
it
them
was a
every tour.
great ride to go on.
Yeah, I saw them on
And to see the crowds grow and the
right.
number of women start attending.
I know. Yeah, it's insane how things have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw them on the Signals tour, and then I think I only I don't remember if I saw them. I was not like a big. I went to I used to go to concerts, but not like I was never like every tour kind of guy. But I saw them on the Signals tour, and I think I may have seen them again, but maybe I didn't. But I saw them on the Clockwork Angels tour where they had the orchestra. That was really cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, so,
You may have to scrape this part a little bit off.
no, it's all good. There's gonna, you know what, for all the people that are not into Rush, there's gonna be some Rush fans that are like, yes. So we're doing it for them. Um, nah, it's interesting. It's good conversation. So okay, let's get into a little more towards the horror stuff. When did you start? How many masks do you have for one thing? Because that looks like a pretty big collection.
I don't know. Once in a while I'll count and then I forget. I think it's maybe like close to 50 up here, 48 or something.
Mm.
I've got a bunch in the basement too.
Yeah. So you're a,
And I've got one or two that I bought like a year or two ago and haven't even opened yet.
oh really?
It's still on the shipping cart. I'm like, where am I going to put them?
So you're
But
you're a collector. You're a collector for
collector,
sure.
well, most of these are from Death Studios,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
Jeff Time. He's kind of like a one-man show out of LaPorte, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to do these Halloween displays, and used to get these masks. There used to be this thing called the Halloween Outlet, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They had a huge catalog. You had to buy the catalog. It was like a phone book. They sold
Right.
distortion stuff. They sold math, but it was the old bait and switch. Everything looked great in the catalog,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
when you got it, it just crumpled up. And I don't know how I found Death Studio stuff, but I saw it online. I was like, wow, that looks good.
Mm.
And got one, and it was the first. It was better in person than it looked on the website. So I've been buying from him for like 25 years. The
Wow.
first mask I got was the Salem's Lot vampire.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
That's one of my favorite, characters
Yeah, it's great.
ever.
I did. That was one of the when I was getting into
Yes, yes.
makeup. I did a
Oh,
prog.
so I think you have one of your prints, or you printed one of your
Oh
paintings.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
Right, yeah, yeah. I did paint that, a little painting of that. But when I was a kid, I was gonna say I did a makeup when I was first learning prosthetics and
uh-huh.
foam latex and all that molds. And I did a makeup of my friend where I put a bald cap on him, and it's so funny because looking back, he's blue, like blue man
Like the
group
Blue Man
blue.
Group. Yeah, maybe they owe you
I made him way too blue. It's pretty funny that I just didn't have the eye back then for it. Other than that, it was pretty good. The sculpt was pretty good. The application was good, but he was like totally blue. The teeth are pretty good too. But yeah, that's actually a really cool movie.
There's
But
a few other masks, but what I used to do is my wife and I used to put on a Halloween display at a condo we lived in.
mm-hmm,
We had an upstairs unit with like an open porch, and I'd put a figure out or two, and I used to make full scale figures for the masks.
mm-hmm.
Where because the masks are a little oversized, the figures had to be a little oversized. And it
Oh,
started
cool.
out with just chicken wire, and first year I put just a chicken wire figure out with a mask on it, and a bale of hay, and like had a little pan with hot water and some dry ice. I'd go
Oh,
out.
cool.
And
That's
it was a
so fun.
condo thing,
Love that.
and the kids and the parents loved it because it's again a big complex, and the parents had something to look at. The kids liked it, and each year the display got bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And after a couple of years, we were getting like 300 kids, trick or treaters, and people would come back
Wow.
year after year, and the display got bigger and bigger. And it was a condo, and they had those rules: you can't put a potted plant out
You're
or a
right.
grill.
Yeah.
But after a couple of years, I was enclosing the entire porch with these panels and had a camouflage net hung
That's
outside
so
and
cool.
light. It was and and it just got out of control. My wife finally said, listen, you can't be doing all this work for one night. We're gonna have a party. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh fuck, I don't want to. I never had a birthday party when I was a kid. I don't want to. I don't want to. I never had a birthday party when I was a kid because I didn't think anyone would come. I'm like,
Oh.
if I don't have it, I won't be disappointed. I'm not gonna have a Halloween. But she's like, no, we're gonna have a party, and we did, and we had a Halloween party for like over eight. We had 16 parties over 18 years,
Wow.
and they just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and so did my displays. So yeah, so the masks, a lot of them I had figures built for them. And then when we were in the condo, when we were done, we had a storage unit. We just stored all
Oh,
this
yeah,
stuff.
I imagine.
Then when we built the house, I didn't build. We had it built. I didn't know. He said, "Well, I don't need closets in here. Let's find a place to put the masks out. Full time. Because to me, they're art."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because
Anyway, go ahead.
no, you've
I was
got it's just funny that you've got, I know people that made some of the stuff that you have in your collection, like Jordu's masks, and I see
Jordan,
those prints behind you are
you, tell me who they are because when I matted those myself and I
uh
covered up his name.
I think
But
those are
we used to go to these chiller theater
right.
shows, and we used to go there just for this great homegrown stuff that
Right.
people were making, one of a kind stuff. You
Yeah,
weren't going to
yeah.
find in the store, and that those prints were one.
I think those are Daniel Horn, aren't those
That
Daniel?
sound that rings. That sounds.
I think those are. I actually I want to get him on the podcast because he's really a great painter. And yeah, I see him when I do Monster Palooza. I haven't done it since COVID, but we have Monster Palooza out here, which is like the big horror convention.
Yeah, I know they had a Maskapalooza too.
Oh, really?
It's part of a Monster
Oh,
Palooza.
okay,
It
right,
was
right,
like within it.
right, right. So yeah, it's just that's another reason I felt, I don't know, some sort of kinship with you is like I saw when you were giving one of your videos, you're giving a tour of your collection, and I'm like, oh, he's not just a mask
No,
collector. It's
no.
like you collect all kinds of horror, Halloween related things, you know.
Yep.
And I recognized a lot of the pieces in your collection. Like, oh, I know who did that. I know who did that. It's got
Some of the stuff is, I try and stay away from mass produced,
right, yeah.
like the two guys in the back, those Cinema Secret busts.
Mm-hmm.
There's I think you can see
The Lon Chaney,
the opera.
Phantom
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
Opera, yeah.
There's a Frankenstein one, but I mean those were for the for what I think they were like $75 or
Yeah,
$100.
I
The
remember
quality on those things is great. They're just
they're
slightly undersized, and they were,
yeah, they're great, really good.
But
Yep.
I think for Death Studios, what you get out of him is for the money is just great.
Yeah,
I like his sculpts, I like his paint, and you know,
they don't come to you like crumpled up like
no, no, that really takes so thick. But they do have a shelf life, though. I've had a couple. You know, they dry out.
yeah,
I've got masks that are 25 years old that are in perfect shape.
wow.
I kind of newer masks that go, but the only way to keep them forever would be to put them in plastic bags and
Mm-hmm.
put them in a box somewhere. But who wants to do that?
Did you know that I started a mask company in the early '90s?
No, I did. No, I did not know that.
Yeah, the it was called the Alterian Ghost Factory, and
I've heard the name though.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, me. It was my boss. I was working because I was working for Tony Gardner at Alterian Studios. That we did like Darkman. I started working with him on the Blob remake. We did Darkman, the movie effects. You know, like
With Liam Neeson.
yeah, yeah. I applied his
I
makeup.
saw that in your bio. That's one of my favorite movies. I love that movie.
Oh yeah, me too. It's so cool. It's like one of the first successful comic book style movies. You
Yeah.
know, and Sam Raimi's
And the
crazy
fact that, yeah,
crazy
well,
style.
I'm glad you brought Sam Raimi up. Just guys like that who started off from these kind of meager,
I
kind of low
know.
budget,
It's so cool.
beginnings, who've risen to the stature they've attained.
Yeah,
Sam
it's
Raimi
amazing.
and Guillermo.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro. Yep.
Oh, and Peter Jackson
Yeah, right. Yeah, Bad Taste
from
and
Dead Alive.
Dead Alive. It's so funny
uh,
to think the guy who made Dead Alive made
Lord of the
Lord of
Rings.
the Rings because it's like the most crazy, insane, violent movie ever made. But he's got range.
But,
That Beatles documentary he did was awesome too. That just came out,
I
or
haven't seen it. I gotta see a lot of it.
Get Back or whatever. The one where it's all
I've heard it's very well
oh,
done.
it's so good, so good. Yeah, it seems like it would just be boring, but it's so interesting. I found it interesting anyway.
I interrupt you. You had the mask company.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
I imagine it's a tough business.
yeah, that's the thing. It's okay. So we were doing effects. We did Darkman. We did all kinds of stuff like Adam's Family. We built the house.
Wow.
All kinds of stuff. The cousin it. And so he had this successful business, and I don't know how we started this mask company. It just seemed like a cool thing to do, and he was into it. So me and a guy I worked with named Lauren Githens, my wife worked there. And we basically Tony was like, okay, you guys get the business going, and so we made these masks and took an ad out in Fangoria. And I mean, this is like the early days of when it was hard to make an ad for a magazine. It was like a full
Uh,
page ad. Anyway, so we did these masks, and we made them too big because we were like overshooting the shrinkage issue.
uh-huh.
So they were like really big, but then it was like we started kind of using that as a selling point. Like they're larger than life.
Larger than life. Yeah, yeah.
So they're bigger than, you're saying that masks are a little bigger. They're probably a little bigger than that. But so we did it for like 3 years, and I know at one point.
I've got some storage things behind me. I don't know if you on the floor full of Fangoria and Rue Morgue. So I'll have to thumb through some later.
Yeah. Oh, and
But
me and we're in an issue of. Oh no, that wasn't Rue Morgue. That was Gore Zone. There was a Gore Zone where me and Tony are doing a Darkman makeup demo in one of those. Uh, but anyway, so we did it for I think 3 years, and we did them too big at first, then we did the next ones too small. There's some that were like, there was one mask that I wish I saved. I had a copy of it, but it disintegrated. But it was so cool. It was like it was a really cool zombie I sculpted, but it was a little too small, but it still fit. So it really was like kind of a tight fitting mask. It was really nice, really detailed. It was kind of like my version of the. It was very EC horror,
uh-huh.
like it had lids that were really heavy and it had lots of wrinkles and it was really cool. But anyway, yeah, and then like around year 3, I think Tony pulled the plug for some reason. Maybe it was just it's funny because we were starting to do the wholesale conventions,
Uh-huh.
and right when we were starting to get a footing and starting to get big, like pretty good sales coming in because we were well known, like three years in the industry,
Mhm.
and then he, for whatever reason, pulled the plug on, and it was just like, oh man, right when we were
Yeah, right
just
on the
over that.
cusp.
And then another funny thing I have to mention is that the guy I worked with, Lauren Githens, he sculpted. We had these ghost maker kits. We called them ghost makers, and they were vacuform ghost faces. And the idea was like, and it came with a little thing of paints,
Hmm.
and you took a sheet and you cut a hole out and you glued this face in and you painted it and you made a ghost costume was the idea. And Fun World, which was we came out with those at a convention, a wholesalers convention or retailers or whatever, and Fun World ripped us off the next world next year, making the Scream mask that ended up being in the Scream movie.
Oh,
So
wow.
the masks that's in the Scream movie
Uh-huh.
is a rip
Was
off
it originally of yours?
of ours. I mean, I didn't do it. Lauren sculpted this, but it's like total rip off.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And he never and
Was there a, you never, was,
he
did you
never
pay out any fee
they
for it or
never
something?
sued him. I was always like, you got to sue him, man. You could make it was like a total rip off completely. It's like, but they never sued him. So I don't know. It wasn't. I didn't own the business, so I couldn't really do anything. Isn't that crazy though?
That is crazy. I recently threw out like it's just a plant, like I said, a vacuum form ghost mask that had a little piece of white fabric on it. It was just very simple
Mm-hmm.
ghost thing that I got at a shop. It was cheap, but I
A bunch of
probably got it 8 years ago, and I was like, just there's nothing like a pure white sheet classic ghost.
I know.
Nobody does that anymore. Because when we were doing the Halloween party, it was a year-round thing. We always had our eyes open for
Right, yeah.
a costume idea or a prop idea or something. And anytime I saw something that I might be able to use, I'd pick up.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that there was, other it was the black hooded one that was in the Scream movies was a rip off, and then other companies did the same thing. There was a bunch of apparently the Halloween industry is notorious for ripping other companies off, and they could do them cheaper. And that was part of what was hard about that business was that everything was getting done in Mexico and China. And then they started doing stuff in China, and we were like hiring kids to come and
Yeah,
teaching them how to paint and doing the whole facility was in our studio, and we were trying to compete with these companies, but
yeah,
we had some cool masks. There's a lot of. I'll tell you one more mask story about the Ghost
yeah.
Factory that's so funny is we found immediately that the bloody, gory masks outsold all the ones that we really wanted to do, which are like zombies and cool
Uh-huh.
monsters and weird creatures. And it's anything that had blood in it was a huge, biggest seller. So we decided as a joke we were going to make a mask that we sculpted with our feet,
Oh,
and
Jesus.
just pour blood and we called it meathead. So we like slammed a bunch
I,
of clay on it, sculpted it with our feet. It was that bad. It was just like a whole mound of clay.
I think I've
We put it
a
in
vague recollection of the name
meathead.
is there, and I'm
We
getting the visual too.
we put it in production, and you cast the mask and you dump the blood paint. It was just blood. It was like red, and it was like a huge seller. It was like one of the biggest sellers. It's like that's the worst mask.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah. There was some cool ones though. Like I did one that was like it had a place for your hand to go. It was like the skin was ripped off. I was trying to at least be creative with the gory stuff. It was like a muscle face, all bloody, and down here was like all the skin, as if you had like went.
Pulled it off.
Yeah, and there was like holes for your fingers, so you'd hold it like
Uh-huh.
that. It looks like you're pulling it down. And then we had these other ones that were like a demon head, and then there was a hole in the mouth, like your head sticking out of the mouth, and then we sculpted
Like
little
you're trying to do that.
fingers. There was little fingers,
Oh,
so it
cool.
looked like, and then you
Yeah.
would buy the hands,
Uh-huh.
demon hands. So you were the demon with you inside of you going like that. And we had
Oh,
like
cool.
3 different versions of that. It was fun. It was really fun. It was really fun. But
I'll definitely look that up.
yeah.
Have you looked at, if there's a secondary market on
Yeah,
that?
a lot of them are. There's one I did from the first series called Stitches, which is kind of like a rip off of the Texas Chainsaw 2 mask, or it's like stitched pieces of skin
Uh-huh.
together. That one's supposed to be really collectible, and one called a zombie I did back then. So there is a for the hardcore mask collectors. There's a market. I should I could have saved so much stuff, and I just didn't because so many
Yeah.
movie props. Can't tell you how many movie props got thrown in the dumpster that I could have just grabbed. It probably made a fortune on.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. You
We didn't
can't.
know back then it was going to be all collectible.
Nah. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a cool collection. I mean, I like your pieces. What was your let's get a little bit into horror movies. What was your what was there like a big horror movie for you when you were a kid?
Well, when I was real young, all the Universal classics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I guess probably the one that pushed me over the edge was the original Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, me too. That was the
So
big one for me.
was one of the rare times we were with my father. He was like a semi-pro, base, but he played like softball. He was, tall, handsome, athletic, you know, a very flawed individual,
Yeah.
uh, but very, well known. A very popular guy.
Mm.
And somehow we're with him for the weekend. I got kind of pawned off on another guy on his team and his wife to like stay over their house.
Mm.
I don't know what the circumstances
That was
were.
the '70s, man.
But
Things were different back
yeah,
then.
I didn't really know these people. I knew he was a trusted friend. They
Yeah,
played
yeah.
together.
Still though, stuff
And
like that happened.
I'm in these people's house on their couch. Night of the Living Dead's on. The lights are out. They got cats, and it's pitch black. I don't know where. Again, did I say I don't know where the bathroom is? I'm like, and this movie's on. And I was like, I must have been about, young, maybe
Yeah.
like 8 or
Yeah.
something, 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I was like, what the girl came out with the trowel,
Yeah.
and was horrified.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. That would every time it would come on, I would watch it. I probably was watching that when I was 5 or 6 years old. I remember sitting in my underwear after getting my bath or whatever, and like sitting there right in front of the TV on the ground, just like horrified.
And I always thought that they're coming to get you, Barbara. part was frivolous in the movie.
Hmm.
You know, I was like, let's get to the real. I don't want
Right.
you
But
joke. But later on,
yeah,
have a much greater appreciation
it's the first
for.
time. I think it was the first time a horror movie was referenced in a horror movie. Like like
Yeah,
they
yeah.
that's what I think, which is really kind of a big deal. It's not a big deal now at all, but um, you know, uh, that kind of meta. What do they call that? Inception kind of thing where you're, you know, talking about the thing that you are. Um,
I There was a bunch of stuff after that. But then the Dawn of the Dead was pivotal.
Me
Pivotal.
too, man.
Too.
Me too. That's so
That
funny. We that was like,
the opening of that movie
oh yeah,
is,
right.
that when that guy's head gets blown, it kicks the
That
door,
whole
the guy's
scene,
head explodes. That
yeah, that's my
it
favorite
was,
part of the whole movie is the beginning. It's
yeah,
so great.
yeah. A word, I can't think of a good word to describe it. It's just frantic, you
Yeah,
know.
right. That's what got me into makeup effects.
I
That
always
that
still say it. So
that
shoot it in the head.
yeah.
Someone shoot it in the head,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Yeah, it's scary as hell. But that's the movie that got me like, okay, I want to do this for a living because the makeup effects were just like at the
The
time.
airport zombie.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was
That I
so
think it's
cool.
how I love my horror with a little humor in it.
Yeah.
That's why Brain Dead, or is it Dead Alive? Dead Alive, the Peter Jackson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's one of my favorite movie. Evil
Right.
Dead 2.
Yeah, Evil Dead 2's
I really
amazing.
love a lot.
Even Army of Darkness is great. Um
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't that was one I didn't like.
Dark Man.
Yeah.
Even Dark
Yeah,
Man
yeah, true.
had just some lightheartedness to it.
Yeah, yeah, it's fun.
Fright Night.
Mhm. True, true. Um yeah, uh what was I going to say? Oh, the shop I was working at, Alterian Studios, did the some of the effects for Army of Darkness. I didn't work on it, but it was the shop would have like a bunch of different jobs going on at once, and I remember seeing it when it came out and being disappointed because it was too funny, like too wacky.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I really like it now. It's like I didn't quite like it when it came out, and then watching it again is probably not that long ago, 5 6 years ago, who knows, could be 10, could be 15, but I really like it now. It's funny. I can appreciate it.
Dawn of the Dead was probably the movie I've seen the most times. I went to the theater to see the most times. They'd always run that as a midnight
Same
movie.
here, man. We used to go every weekend to the
Anytime
midnight
it came
movie.
around, I'd go here you go.
They had it at Delamo Mall. It was like this big mall, and I would always drag my best friend at the time to go and see it, because I was.
Remember Blood-Sucking Freaks?
Yeah, I've still never seen Blood-Sucking Freaks, but that was a big midnight movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen it. Not terribly good,
I remember seeing pictures from
but
it.
yeah, it was just gross.
Yeah.
um,
What about The Exorcist? Was that one that?
no, I think that was, I don't know, just over my head.
Yeah, it's
I don't
super
know. I don't
serious,
know.
man.
Maybe I saw it. Yeah. Yeah, not much. I don't know. Maybe it was just a timing thing.
Not fun enough. It's definitely not a fun movie,
Yeah,
that's for sure.
yeah. Um, what what was it? Phantasm
Yeah,
was
Phantasm's great.
was a that made a lasting impression on me.
Me too. It was very dreamlike. I always thought that just seemed like something of I would dream. It seemed like a 14-year-old boy would dream that movie if you're a horror geek. It's got that kind of
And
dream logic.
I saw not a number again. I lost. Uh, I don't know how long ago it was, but Bubba Hotep, done
Oh,
by the who's the guy who directed Phantasm? Don
oh,
Coscar,
Coscarelli. I haven't seen that.
Bubba Hotep.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Oh my God, it's just a great movie,
Is it really?
incredible movie.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool. Okay, I'll
it's
watch
like,
it.
yeah,
I'll watch it on your recommendation.
just great. Yeah, a lot of just a beautiful movie.
Cool. What? Oh, okay. What about Zombie? Did you ever like Zombie? Did you ever?
Yeah, I didn't see that till kind of late, back when video stores were first
Right.
open. And yeah, I don't know if I could deal with the was that dubbed, right?
Oh yeah,
I don't,
totally.
I don't know
It's
if I
it's
could
a
get past that.
super very
I don't
Italian.
know. Yeah, I don't know why that one never resonated with me.
Oh
I
wow.
also we once we stopped having when we were having the Halloween parties, we could never really enjoy the season because we were always working right up
Right.
to the party.
Yeah.
Once we stopped having them, the first year we went to a horror hound convention out in Indiana,
Mm.
and they had a smaller mask convention within that. But anyway, one of the masks I almost bought was a mask of the main zombie
Oh
from that movie.
yeah,
So
yeah.
kind of like the two really kind of long, crooked.
And the
Yeah,
worms in the eyes.
yeah, yeah.
I just watched it like I think it was 2 days ago again, and I ended up really falling in love with that movie. I love it. I love it because I was like always a Dawn of the Dead guy. That was it. That was like kind of
Uh-huh.
my favorite zombie movie, and but I remember seeing like the ad for Zombie in the drive-in theater when I was a little kid, 1980, so 12 years old or something. 13 or something, and it's just was like with that crappy drive-in
Raining.
microphone and the crappy print of the movie and the music, that theme song. It
was
just was like
was that the
so
movie that
creepy.
Goblin did Goblin shared
No,
the
no, no, no. It was Fabio Frizzi is this guy that did the
Oh, okay.
music. Yeah, but really cool, weird. It's similar synth, weird, creepy synth music.
What was the movie that George Romero got the Goblin music?
That was Dawn of the Dead.
But that was from a it was from an Italian, I think, zombie movie. I thought they used a lot of
Really?
that Goblin stuff on another movie, and then
Oh, right. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
George got it because I don't know
Oh,
someone.
yeah, yeah. I think it might
I
be.
remember when I was in high school going around. How do I'm looking around for a Dawn of the Dead soundtrack. I finally found one at
Yeah.
a Fangoria
Yeah, it was
convention.
really
I was
hard
like
to find.
really hard to find.
I wanted the role playing game
Oh
because there was
yeah.
a Dawn of the Dead role playing game because I was into Dungeons and Dragons a little bit, and so we there was a store that had Dungeons and Dragons stuff in the mall, and there was a Dawn of the Dead game, and I could never afford it. It was like it had a map of like the mall. It was like a D&D, but with zombies and Dawn of the Dead, and it's like now I think it's worth a fortune. You could buy it on eBay, but used, but
Oh cool.
they're really super rare. But man, I always wanted that.
You should get it. Treat yourself.
Yeah, it's probably I haven't looked in a while. We'll see how expensive it is. I should get it. I should get it. Um, yeah. Wow. Yeah. That we've got a lot of similar tastes in horror movies because those are pivotal movies. Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead for me.
Yeah.
Um,
That's one of the
yeah, I
um
saw that mask. You got the airport zombie.
yeah, Death Studios did an airport zombie. And actually I think it's Tom Savini had something to do with it.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but used to see Tom Savini at a lot of the shows.
Yeah.
Go to.
Yeah. I never got to really got to know him. I met him once, but I was trying to get a job, showing him my portfolio. I was like 17 or something. Um, yeah, I would go. Once I decided I was gonna do makeup effects for a living, I just like started making a portfolio in high school, and then when I got out of high school, I would go and show my portfolio. It was terrible, painful. I was so shy. Didn't want to do it. I ended up getting my first job because I drove this other guy around to different shops to show his portfolio, and because he didn't have a car, he was from out of state, and
Uh,
and I was so shy, I didn't even show my portfolio to any of these guys. And one guy asked me, Tony Gardner's like, let me see, do you do this stuff too? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, let me see your book. And I showed him my portfolio, and then he hired me.
wow, that's cool. Some friend.
Hey man,
Well played.
it was I was didn't try to do it at all. I was too chicken.
Yeah, things like that happen. That's great. Unsolicited,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just funny though, because it's like it was just because I was being too much of a chicken shit to show to even say, hey, I got a book too. Must have been meant to be.
So Death Studio, he's been around he was around for a long time before I started buying from him.
Oh yeah,
And yeah, it's just another great thing. How many, the guys like, and if I want to order a mask, I can call up and talk to the guy I've been buying
yeah.
from
That's the way.
25 years.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Is the
And he finally got on Facebook a couple years ago. His sister runs the Facebook group. And,
oh cool. Yeah, they must have a ton of masks over the years.
yeah, he rotates stuff in and out of production, but I imagine it's a lot of hard work.
Oh yeah,
Casting, so forget about it.
it
Something I
is.
thought about getting into, but I don't know. I know bad things happen. Sculpts fall over, molds break.
Yeah.
Gotta be heartbreaking when that stuff happens.
Yeah, yeah. That was like a joke, a running joke. You would do it they did it at Rick's when I worked at Rick Baker's shop. They would mold, you'd sculpt a head
Mm-hmm.
for something, and then you take it to the mold department, and then they would make a mold on it. And sometimes they would make the mold, and it would pop off and not damage the sculpture. Usually, the sculpture gets destroyed
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
molding process, but sometimes they would have a clean sculpture. And so the joke was, you'd pretend the mold guy would pretend like he hadn't molded it yet, and he'd be pushing it on a cart or something by the sculptor, and then knock it off.
Oh, nice.
Or like put it behind a door and then like come out and open the door, smash the thing from the door. Oh man, those were the days. I wanted to ask you a little bit too before we're getting
Yeah.
near at the end here. I'm keeping you kind of a long time, but
Um,
you did you play in bands? Because I mean, you're such a great. I mean, you're really a really good bass player, and
oh,
you must have played in a lot of bands, like serious bands, I imagine, right?
no, thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks for the compliment.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I always, took a couple lessons, but never learned how to read. My mind doesn't work like that. So I learned by playing to records,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and that's what I started out doing. And I thought, well, if I want to sound like this guy, and I gotta play what he's playing and try and do what he's doing. So I always treated the songs with great reverence and had an ear for detail.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd listen through what was going on in the play out, during the
Right.
fade out, well, what's he doing here? But yeah, I played in cover bands and then original bands and then back to cover bands,
Mm-hmm.
to make some money. And yes, I did a lot of stuff. Nothing, did a couple things that were cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so from ninth grade till I stopped playing just shortly before I started the channel, and that was 2010.
So
So
you're kind of playing in different bands up until
oh
then.
yeah,
Oh wow, that's a long
yeah,
time. Well, that's why you're
yeah,
so
it is.
good.
But
That's what happens when you play a long time. You get really good.
Yeah, you know, I really think I got as good as I was ever going to get by the time I was 26.
Really?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, I was full. I was just a real snob musically. It was Rush and then just progressive stuff, hard stuff, you
Right.
know. And that's all I did. It was during summertime, and when we had off from school, it wasn't unusual for me to play 6 hours a day,
Okay. Yeah. So you got
like
that
7 days a week. Yeah,
obsessive nature.
yeah, just sitting there with it. And back that was back with a record player, you know,
Yep. I remember.
trying to play, learn songs and play along with them. Um, so anything that's come after that, which is quite a few years, is just refinement.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's playing what you don't play, just learning a little bit of I don't know, restraint,
Right.
and
Yeah.
kind of focusing more on the quality of your note than the number of notes you can
Yeah,
play.
that's a maturity thing.
Yeah,
When you get older, you realize uh, it's not about just jamming all the time. That's like my son is a drummer, and
hmm.
he's touring for the English Beat. He's like a tour.
Oh, I think I saw, yeah, one of you clip you put up
Yeah,
a few months ago. Yeah, how cool is
it's
that?
amazing. Yeah, I'm
That's
so proud of him. It's
great.
amazing. But that's how I really noticed. That's how I know he's a great drummer is because he started in punk bands when he was like 12. I remember hearing them practice in the garage and stuff, and he was really fast.
Mhm.
He would go crazy. He would play so fast at shows that he had to have a trash can next to him because he would throw up in between songs.
Really?
Yeah, because he'd be like so out of breath, which is kind of hilarious. But now he plays. He's all really into like reggae and the '60s traditional ska music, Jamaican ska, like
Which is a
old stuff.
total flip side. It's all
Yeah,
about space and openness.
totally, and feel,
Yeah.
and he's very he doesn't like just shred all over the place. He's restrained, and he's all about keeping the groove and the beat. And it's like you don't realize, I don't think, the importance of restraint and feel and groove until you kind of become a more mature musician. I think when
Mhm.
you start out, it's all about speed or whatever, or being really showy, or you know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. Definitely. Playing as fast as you possibly can, as hard as you can.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of when I started, I did some original stuff, and that was cool. But it was hard anytime. You don't want to throw stereotypes around, but there are a lot of unreliable people who get into music.
Right.
Maybe they get into it for the wrong reason.
And then you're relying on them. That's the
You're
thing about
relying
that's
on
why
them.
it's so hard to be in a
You
band.
put all this time and effort into something, and
And
then
then yeah, one guy
on
can
your
screw the
third
whole thing.
drummer, and you go, oh, we got to start over again.
Mm-hmm.
So then after a while, I got to a point, well, if I'm going to keep playing, I'm going to make some money. So I started doing it for, doing cover bands, playing bars, and
Mm-hmm.
then you're out late, and it just became a job.
Right.
But yeah, I just didn't love it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's when I sat down to, just put a few songs together. That's what I didn't say before is I loved playing music and being in bands. I loved learning the songs, practicing them, polishing them with the group, and getting them to sound as close to the way the stuff was recorded as we could.
Mm-hmm.
I loved everything up to the point of performing. I never wanted to step on a stage or
Right.
have anyone looking at me. I'd always I was a man in black. I'd just dress in black and stand off in a dark corner somewhere. And guys would be like, come on, put your foot up on the monitor,
Yeah.
and never, never gonna happen, and it never did.
Yeah.
So
It's like the bass player of Queen. Uh,
yeah, I'd have been a perfect like pit musician for
right.
a
Yeah.
Broadway
Yeah.
show under the stage, you know.
I think his name's Brian Deacon, the bass
John.
player, John Deacon.
Yep.
Yeah, he was like he didn't like performing. That's why he gave it up. He just was
Yeah,
not into it.
just not for me. But and why do all the other stuff unless you're going to do that? So I did it, and I did it for many years. For a
Right.
year. I got through it. But now, if YouTube was around when I was young, I never would have left the house.
Right. Yeah, you would have never gotten that.
So now it's, I used to do my Halloween projects, and when I sit down and work on a song, it's the same thing. It takes me out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a it's not a good place to be. And I can just sit down and it just feels good. It feels right. It's where I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I can spend hours doing it.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure when you get started on a painting, when I used to do my Halloween projects,
Mm-hmm.
I go out in the garage at 8 o'clock in the morning, and 2 o'clock, my wife's like, "You gonna eat lunch?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what time is it?
Yeah.
2 o'clock. Same thing. I can sit down and play a song. If there's 3 people online in front of me at the store, I'm like, I ain't got time for this. I'll leave my stuff, leave my basket somewhere.
Yeah.
But I can sit and play the same song 30 times in a
Right.
row.
Because you're interested in it.
Because
Because
I'm interested. I just love it.
yeah.
So.
That's so cool. Well, it shows in your playing. It's like, when I first started watching, I'm like, this guy is like as good as Geddy Lee. It's like seriously, when you could play the different.
Well,
He wrote the stuff. He wrote
he,
the stuff,
he wrote the
which
stuff,
is a different skill though. But like as far as playing, you're playing as good as he plays them. It's amazing.
I don't know if that's very nice of you to say, but I look at myself as more of a decent, a good mimic,
Yeah, but
as opposed to a good musician.
I don't know.
You know,
You're being humble.
oh, well. But anyway, the YouTube channel has been, just I've been around for a long time
I
now.
know.
And they took away your kind of thumbs up, thumbs down rating. But when I was looking through some stuff today to see, all my videos are in like nothing's below like 98% positive.
Oh yeah,
Rate. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
And in 13 years doing it, I can count on 2 hands, seriously, the number of negative comments.
Oh wow, that's
I've
amazing.
received.
That's amazing, especially
It
on
is amazing in
YouTube.
this day and age, right? Where there's so much,
Yeah,
someone can find something to hate about everything. But you and I'm still, take the time to respond to every comment
oh wow,
personally. I take that, someone's going to take the time to say something nice. I'm going to take the time to.
that's so cool.
Well, I feel something I have to do.
Right.
Sometimes if I let it go for a week or something, then that means I've got a couple hours in front of me to do
Yeah.
it. If I do a little each day or on the weekend. But yeah, it's been a very rewarding experience doing this. Again, I've got 54,000 subscribers
Yeah, it's amazing.
and 16 million views.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. If there were 54,000 paying subscribers,
Right. Hey, you can start a Patreon or something.
I'd be talking from a more comfortable chair.
Yeah, it's I started my YouTube channel I think around that time, and I just didn't use it. It's like I wish I would have been. It's like so stupid. I only just started a few years ago or a couple of years ago trying to get my painting YouTube channel going, and it's just like so dumb. I didn't do that when I could have been early. I would, I'd probably have a bunch of followers by now, but I'm trying to get I started the Dark Art Society YouTube channel for this podcast, and that's going pretty well. I just got to the point where I could get monetized and after a year. So, and I have all this content because I've been doing the podcast for like 5 years without video though. I just started doing video like a year ago.
I'm sure I'm subscribed. I know I'm subscribed, but my attention span is so short, and I go on. I'm sure I miss it I miss a lot of stuff in my
Oh yeah,
subscriptions
for sure. Yeah, you never get the
so
stuff you're
quick.
subscribed to on
No.
YouTube. Yeah, well, what's the easiest way for people to find your YouTube channel? I'll link it in the description below, but
Oh, you don't have. Well, that's the one thing about the 54,000 subscribers. What I'm most proud of is that that's 54,000 organic subscribers.
I know.
I've never told anyone subscribe to me
It's
or I'm
amazing. Yeah.
listed. I don't pin my. I don't, I don't know.
No, it's amazing. It's impressive.
So yeah, TJH 3113. If
Okay.
you just type that in anywhere, I come up. And I don't know the origin of that. If
Yeah,
you
yeah.
is because I'm so clever. I was going to put it's my initials, Troy James Hughes. Was going to do 2112, because nobody has ever thought of doing that. But any combination I came up with, 2112 was taken.
Right.
Troy 2112, everything was gone. So I said, let me move. I'll have to do the math. Whatever hundreds, whatever years in the future, and 3113 is kind of my nod to Halloween, and
Oh,
and
okay. There you
the
go.
monsters. 30,
That's it. That's actually better.
3113.
That's actually better, I think, than
So it
yeah.
kind of blended the music thing and my horror thing.
That's perfect. I just think it's so cool that the whole thing was organic. The way you started it, the way you had that backdrop just happened to and you got this organic following. I mean, you can't
I've
plan
got
these kinds of things, you know?
no,
This
and I
is
never thought it'd be again 13 years later, using the same, same doing things the same exact way, and no, I just totally lost. Go ahead.
no,
I'm
no.
totally lost what I was trying to say.
I was just thinking, everyone's, people now are always trying to figure out some kind of scheme. We're used to trying to chase this algorithm and trying to find a
Yeah,
plan. How can I do this? How can I make this work? And something like your channel just that comes about totally organically. It's really kind of like a magical thing that happens. It's like you can't plan something like that. It's like an inspired thing. It just comes up
it's a
naturally.
slow growing.
Yeah, stick to it.
Just
But
keep doing. I haven't changed really a thing. I started talking more
yeah,
videos because after a few years, I started writing more lengthy introductions
mm-hmm.
to my videos, and they got some of them are like huge. I would max out. They only allow you 5,000 characters, and I'd max out. And then I'd go to upload a video, and I'd be like, "Oh, geez, do I really want to spend an hour writing something?" So I said,
Right.
"Let me talk a little," even though I hate
I know
talking.
that's I've
I'm
got
gonna listen to this, put a bullet in my head
I
because
know.
who likes hearing themselves talk?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I said, "Well, let me start talking a little bit." People seem, to like. I don't know.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I've listened to all the talking ones. I never listen to this podcast because I can't. I don't like just because I've experienced it already. I talk to the person,
Right.
and I don't like hearing the sound of my own voice. So I just don't.
That's it. Yeah.
I don't listen
Like
unless I have to edit. That's why I don't like editing.
I stopped leaving voicemails years ago. For that reason, the God forbid someone plays it back, right? But I know we're probably overboard, but I don't know. It doesn't matter. But another thing with my channel
Mhm.
is the number of close encounters I've had
Yeah, I was
with
gonna ask you that. I was gonna ask you if you think any of the band members of Rush have seen your. I'm sure
Band
they have.
Rush
I
probably not.
I
Yeah.
bet you they have. I bet you they have.
Well, I know a couple of my videos are embedded on their official website. So
Really?
if you go to their official website, this happened a long time ago.
So they have
On
seen
their
it.
official website, if you go album by album, they have like a drum cover, a guitar
Oh,
cover.
cool.
So I'm on a couple of those, but I'm sure Geddy Lee wasn't there.
I know, but I bet you they've seen it. I bet you they've seen it. I bet you Getty's
uh,
seen your stuff.
but there's been the bass player from Kansas, Dave Hope, who's on my short list of favorite bass
Oh,
players.
really?
he actually sent me a note saying that he actually used my videos to relearn the songs that he hadn't touched in like 20 years.
That's
He
amazing.
got together with the band for a one-off benefit show, and he said he didn't know what remember what key they were in. So he said he used my videos to relearn a couple of them.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and Bruce Thomas from Elvis Costello and the Attractions.
Wow,
I've been kind of chummy with him for years.
how cool, man.
He's just, such a nice guy and just so gracious, and he's been very kind to me. And
That's
it's just neat rubbing virtual elbows with some of these people
yeah,
I've looked up to. Like
yeah, that's amazing.
Rick Anderson was one of my favorite players too.
What's
My
who's
top five players: Geddy Lee, um, John Glasscock from Jethro Tull. He was
mhm.
only with him for a couple albums. Um, Dave Hope from Kansas, Rick Anderson from the Tubes,
Oh no way, yeah, I remember the
and
tubes.
Dan Roberts from Crash Test Dummies. I just really love that. I got to meet Rick Anderson. This is just a year or two ago, and he knew me. He said, "Is your name Toby or Tony? Do you have a lot of mass for you behind you?"
That's so
I was like,
cool.
"Holy shit!" He's like, "Man, nobody plays more Tubes covers than you." And we were talking for a while,
That's so cool.
and unfortunately, he just passed away recently.
Oh no,
But finally got to see him. Saw him twice, and they were great. He's a nice guy, good bass player.
that's so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, you deserve the recognition. I,
thanks
you
a
know,
lot. Yeah.
I
Now
yeah, that's how I
I
learned.
got to add another because I started writing a list down. I said I got to keep track of this. I'll have to get it.
That's how I learned the Spirit of Radio intro from your video. That's how I started, I think, watching your channels when I got that bass. And I could not figure out. I
Yeah,
just like couldn't figure it out. And
that's a pain in the ass.
I
That's still one of
finally
those.
learned how to play it from watching your video because I thought I
That's
would.
still one of those things. It's only 50-50 with me. That 50, I got a 50% shot of getting it right.
When I figured that out, I was like showing my son. I'm like, look, and I could barely play it, and he's just like, not impressed.
Yeah,
I was
great job.
impressed. I was
Great
impressed.
job. But that's one of the things I may start doing more of is I did a project with a fella, Tim Fletcher, and we transcribed all the bass lines to the Left Overture album by Kansas,
Oh,
and did it.
cool.
So he, did all the tabs and sheet music, and I did a video for each. Did the entire album. Took over a year or so.
Wow.
So we might start doing more of those, like one-offs, like Rush stuff,
That's
kind of
cool.
less in accurate transcriptions.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, I'd be totally interested in that.
Just
That's
for fun. A lot of people seem to um use the videos as learning tools and stuff.
yeah.
It was a unintended consequence.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying with the, this inspired thing you came up with. Just it fell together in a way that you just can't plan these things. You hope to get as many of those in life as possible, and you're lucky if you ever get one of something that just happens in that way. It's like a gift.
Totally agree.
It's super cool. Well, I won't keep you any longer. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk. It was super fun, man. It's totally fun.
I'm flattered and you know very humbled that you invited me on.
I love your channel. You're a cool dude, and I love all your your collection. And
I'm going to tell my wife you said that.
I thought it was really interesting that we had that so much in common. We really got a lot
Yeah,
in common with the movies and the kind of the era we grew up in and the circumstances, and it's interesting. But anyway, yeah, thanks. Don't hang up. Don't hang up yet.
yeah.
But the last thing we have to do is just say goodbye to the audience. So just say in your own way, just say goodbye. Goodbye, audience. Thanks for listening. So go ahead.
All right. Jeez, I hate talking.
Just say goodbye. That's all you have to say.
I can't. I'm trying to think of something witty to say. Hey, thanks so much for your time and patience. I appreciate your listening.